feature presentation.
Welcome back to another Untitled Movie Podcast, or a Spoilercast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck. Alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is tomato meter approved, Eric Marchin.
Matt, we're still talking about Thunderbolts.
Yes, we can get right into it. But if you guys haven't seen the movie yet, this is going to be our spoiler cast. We're really going to focus on the end of the film, the credits, the post credits, both scenes, and just kind of any spoilers that happen throughout the movie. It's not going to be like a full review or a full breakdown or anything. If you want that review, we have a spoiler free review that's an hour and 20 minutes long, I think, that you guys can check out on the main channel right now if you haven't seen the film. But we're posting this just as the first screenings of Thunderbolts are getting out of the theaters. So it should be ready for you right away. So maybe you have seen it. And if you have seen it, stick around because we're about to spoil everything in a 3 and a 2 and a 1.
Taskmaster dies.
Pour one out to Taskmaster. That's where I was going to start too. We joked about it a lot on our spoiler free review of how important Taskmaster was to this film.
Not at all.
Do you think they did that character or Olga Kurylenko dirty? Like,
yes,
maybe she got a
little
paycheck.
But even her voice, I think, is dubbed. I think like that's the strange bit where the one time you see her actual face.
Do you think it was even her? Did they digital do that?
That's a great question.
It probably was digital.
Was AI involved?
As we're doing this, I'm gonna have a share a drink with my bro. Share a Coke with my bro. I'm opening a Coke Zero.
I just got a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's the Taskmaster thing. I talked to you after the screening. I love that people are here to talk about New Avengers and Fantastic Four and the post credits.
The New Avengers of old scene.
Yeah, so but we're gonna talk about Taskmaster for a bit before we get into that. Feels kind of weird. Like I get you do it probably just, I think you said this, Eric, after the screening, just to show like stakes of like, well, one of these people could die at any moment. It's kind of like at the beginning of the Suicide Squad where they killed off some characters and things like that too, right? Almost that movie plays Boomerang. That movie plays it kind of more as a gag, where this doesn't really play it as a gag. It's more so like oh fuck, okay, you thought this person was, part of the Thunderbolts, part of the team, but
in the marketing and
I think we all knew, like, we also brought this up in our spoiler free review of like the people who are listening to this and listen to that spoiler free review are probably the sickos, right? Are probably the people that are in the know, watched the 6-hour long chair reveal for Doomsday.
I hated that, by the way. I laughed though when you posted the Frasier theme dub.
I watched.
Great.
I'm ashamed to say how long I had that on for.
Matt.
So and one of the things, if you watched that, they revealed that most of the New Avengers or Thunderbolts are in that film. One of the chairs missing.
Yeah. So any suspense really for those characters, if you saw that before you watched Thunderbolts, has been basically alleviated.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's for the hardcore of hardcore people. Like, my mom or most people who go and see the MCU.
I could say most people's moms.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
My mom has the same thing. Like, she loves the way that Anne does, and she'll ask me about she's fallen in love with Simu Liu right now.
She's like,
she's like, "Wait, is he going to be in the next?" Does
she know Avengers? I shared an airplane with him once?
Oh, I told her.
He was sitting in premium economy.
Good for him.
Not business.
Okay. Yeah, not with the plebs, but not trying to be too high class. No, I appreciate that. No, she was just asking, like, is he going to be in the next Avengers film? And it's like, well, you can watch a video full of chairs and find out.
Like Matt did for 7 hours. Anyways, Taskmaster gets shot.
I'm gonna push back on this now. So people that complain for like the Brutalist being 3.5 hours and then watch that fucking chair video, you can't.
To be fair,
you saw it though. I'm not saying you.
I did see The Brutalist. Yes. I will joke about seeing long movies. To be fair, I had it kind of as a
to be chair. To be
chair. It was on as a screensaver for most of the day. You know what I mean?
Like I get you. Yeah. I mean, even I went in and just said like, oh, we're
You just
still
watch the
doing
clips or
this.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then your
Which
dub, which was
any
great.
sane person would do, right?
Yeah.
But like,
We'll wait for a press release.
yeah, exactly. Like this, the most it could have been an email announcement.
The Russos are not
Ever.
helping themselves right now. I will
Um,
say that too.
I love it. I'm a sucker for stupid shit like that. I think it's a fun, easy, stupid thing to just have as a live stream. I understand from the someone who pitched that the marketing thing of it. You get people talking about it all day instead of just for the morning or whatever. Um, I uh I had it on just as I was working or doing other shit, right? Like I just had it on the screen and then but even I didn't have it on all day either, but I was really disappointed when Taskmaster's chair didn't pop up. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm
um,
also hopeful that if Netflix greenlights the Electric State 2, they'll do the same thing with the next cast.
yeah, that will bring record low numbers to that live
You
stream.
mean record no numbers?
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about what we actually came here to talk about. I mean, Taskmaster's death is the I guess a big thing that happens early on in the movie, but really just kind of is a misdirection more than anything, and to sort of set up stakes, but then doesn't really pay off in any way
No.
throughout it. They're just kind of disposed in that one moment. Um, I guess the main thing to talk about is like we talked a little bit about Bob and the Sentry and the Void in the spoiler free review without getting into too much. What I will say that I didn't say in the spoiler free before we get into the post credits is I do feel like that Bob turn into Sentry and then into the Void or into Void um was felt a bit rushed, and I did say that during our review. And I like the themes that they were playing with and the visual representation between Bob's inner struggles as this character and this dark version of him, which reminded me of that evil Scott Pilgrim, or that comes from video games of like evil Dark Link and stuff like
Well,
that from
also
Zelda.
making
But
him
um
a brand of or a product. I think there's some interesting stuff they could have explored a little further with that, where Val is turning him into almost like an action figure. It actually,
it's
like, I
almost
know
like what they're doing in The Boys, right?
that's what I was gonna
With
say. He reminded me
Homelander.
of Homelander, especially with like the dyed hair, right? Like
It was
it's
very Homelander.
yeah.
Like it definitely is. And you brought up the point of, sorry if there's background noise, everyone, have a window open. It was warm today. Um
Don't apologize.
uh it it reminded me, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about Sentry and the
The boy,
boys, and then I
Homelander.
forget what I was going to say. Oh, you talked about it being this fucking beeping. I'm probably gonna cut it out through the
I'll
enhanced
leave it
stuff,
in.
but
Leave it in.
it being a TV show, right? Where
Yeah.
if it was a TV show, maybe you could focus a little bit more on Val, bringing in this symbol that she basically creates to be this new hero that the
Century
world
21.
needs, and maybe focus a little bit more on that and then flesh out maybe. I think Bob is pretty fleshed out, but then Sentry and Void aren't really. Like I feel like that switch happens so quick and plays out so quickly. Like the stuff in the Void and how the Thunderbolts deal with it and then are presented as this savior of New York again and the new Avengers. I feel like that turn and that last act kind of happens very quickly. I don't know if you agree, Eric, but
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah.
I also think with like some of the, we talked about Nightmare on Elm Street, and I feel like that's the one thing the MCU, and talking about elevated horror, has not really succeeded at yet. And even though they've tried, they're not very good with horror. I think like with the Doctor Strange movie, Multiverse of Madness, Werewolf by Night.
I
Uh,
think Werewolf by Night's pretty fun.
it's fun, but it's not scary, or like
Yeah.
it's not like they're presenting elements in this that are supposed to be horrific in obviously a very intimate kind of manner and a vulnerability, and it's it doesn't really get there. And it also has like this whiff of New Mutants as well, where New Mutants was really trying to do
Yeah.
something similar to this, where it's like, okay, we're really confining this to one space, budget reasons. Obviously that's different from Thunderbolts, which probably had the resources and what they needed. But like, just in terms of finding like that tone, I think like the tone of that sequence
of the void
doesn't work. I also, and this is just coming from a film snob at this point. I couldn't stop laughing every time internally when I saw the void, because it reminded me of Uncle Boomy from the Pitchapong Veerasethakul's movie.
Oh yeah, I bet you everyone's thinking that one.
Oh, they are, but they better be.
Everyone's like, "Damn, this is just like Uncle Boon Me." Calling
his 9 lives.
I would say we talked a little bit about this off
Fast
air
life.
after we saw the movie too. That the void sequence, while I do like it, and I liked, some of how they transition from room to room, and I just wish we spent either a little bit more time there, or the set pieces there were a little bit more interesting. I feel like they're just kind of running room to room really quickly, and you're spending a moment in one character's psyche of this traumatic thing that happened in their lives, and in this kind of escape room kind of thing, right? Of an escape room of your own, mental health, I guess.
Well, they even talked about that as well. It's like, you don't want to go in the other rooms. They're pretty terrible. And you're like, no,
Dewey, you don't want no part of this. So yeah, I
turned into a montage.
So I just wish that it was a little bit more fleshed out, but I still like a lot of it. And then we get to the final moment. So they save New York because they calm Bob down, or Yelena does really, and he gets rid of the void. Everyone's unvoided.
Well, he doesn't get rid of it, and we should say that, like,
yeah, it's still in him,
still
just
there,
like
depression and anxiety.
yes,
but
totally. It never goes away, but
as
you can control
a
it a little
support
bit more.
system.
Exactly. So he bottles it down just like no. And then everyone's released from the void. So those people who got blipped and voided are just having a rough time.
Yeah.
And then
the Noid had a really hard time.
Yeah.
Avoid the Noid.
Do you think the Noid went into the void?
Yes.
That's where he's been all these years.
He comes back and he sells Domino pizzas again.
Yeah. Remember that guy who just anyways he was like possessed by the Noid.
Yeah,
that was weird, dude. So anyways, the end of the movie has Val kind of tricking the Thunderbolts into in a very kind of Tony Stark-esque press conference, revealing them as the new Avengers. So it kind of goes back to Yelena at the beginning of the movie talking with Red Guardian and saying, like, you should try to get a more front-facing, heroic kind of job instead of this kind of
Yelena wants agent. That. She wants to go more public.
Yeah, to try to have purpose and feel like she's doing something,
she
positive.
Wants to be a hero.
And so Val, kind of to get out of her, bullshit throughout the rest of the movie, introduces this team as the new Avengers because, New York was under attack once again. She's bought an Avengers Tower, which I guess is revealed that she was the person who bought it from Tony Stark in Homecoming, way back in Homecoming. So she's still under construction. She needs to get her ass moving a little bit. Like, I guess,
to be fair, it is a pretty big building.
And to be fair, people were blipped out of existence for 5 years, and there was other attacks and stuff like that. So I get it. Slow moving. Construction also very slow, I'm sure.
Yeah. 3 seasons, construction in winter.
So she reveals them as the new Avengers. And then that's kind of where the movie cuts to black. And then we get a credit sequence that which we were all expecting, or at least us sickos who kind of were like, there's no way that the asterisk means nothing. It probably means that they are either the Dark Avengers, the Secret Avengers, or the New Avengers. So in the comics, there is a run of comics called the New Avengers, which is always kind of like, I mean, people who are way more hardcore into comics might correct me on this, but from my understanding, because I've read a lot of Marvel comics over the years, it was almost like the B squad of Avengers all the time. So it kind of fits this group, but then the Thunderbolts were always their own group that were the Thunderbolts. And there was a time
which were the Suicide Squad, basically.
Sure. Yes. What came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't even know. And then the Thunderbolts become the Dark Avengers at one point when Norman Osborn is running them. So I
call them the Dark Avengers.
Well, I think he just calls them the Avengers, but us,
because they're
all villains. And they're all represent a different member of the Avengers.
It would be very funny if he was like, "Yeah, I'm now calling them the Dark Avengers."
Yeah. And so in this, they are called the New Avengers, and they're branded that way, just like the comics are. Um, and we get a credit sequence where Thunderbolts gets scratched out, and then the title of the film is called The New Avengers, which I think will be really interesting. I doubt they will do this moving forward, but it would be kind of fun, like after this comes out on Blu-ray or on Disney Plus, if they just actually retitle the film The New Avengers, or if
Like
that's
Edge
a
of
spoiler.
Tomorrow.
Like, or if that's just a spoiler, but I don't know moving forward if even like on the title of the movie is Thunderbolts, but I think it's a
Should
fun
have
thing
been
to
What About Bob?
scratched out and the New Avengers. Then we get a title sequence of kind of newspaper clippings, internet comments.
Okay, that
Um,
to me felt a little bit AI-ish because
Interesting.
Marvel admitted that they used AI for Secret Invasion.
Invasion for the opening credits of Secret Invasion, yeah.
This also felt a little bit like
Interesting, I didn't get that vibe
I
from when
hope
I
it's
watched
not. I
it,
hope it's
but
not, but there was a couple
un
shots where it felt like not my
unfortunately in this
Avengers,
world
that kind of stuff.
yeah, unfortunately in the world we are now, we're gonna have that conversation a lot, I think, of being
But
like,
also because they used it, I think like that's also a
it gives you
fair
reason to be
question to
skeptical.
ask. Yeah,
Sorry, I totally agree with that, and I don't like the use of it
anything.
in anything really. Yeah, at least in art for sure. If it makes your yeah, that's a way deeper, more complicated question.
Yeah.
So, I hate the use of it when it creates art. That could be used a human doing that job or whatever. It yeah, I love this choice. I think it's a fun choice for where we are in the universe. I like having all those clippings of people being like, "Who the fuck are these people? I don't they're not my Avengers. Like, the hell is this?" Like, and I like all that of no one kind of believing in them and continuing that trend, but Val is putting them forward as, Earth's mightiest heroes. And I think this group of misfits, it'll be interesting where they go with it, right? Because you do have John Walker, where he's reading a article on from I forget what
The
outlet it
Fall of a
is, but
Hero,
yeah, like it's
basically.
a
Yeah.
profile on him, and he murdered a guy, an innocent person in broad daylight, and it's caught on film and things like that. And you have Bucky, who's done a lot of horrible
Well,
shit
that's
over.
the thing. I don't know
Who's
if I
like,
mentioned this on our review, but as a congressman, again, this is a Marvel movie, so whatever.
yeah,
But having
suspension of disbelief.
having murdered both, tech and political leaders, it's even though it wasn't necessarily his fault in terms of like the brainwashing part of it, it's like you think that would have
Do people know he's done that, or they've kept that secret? I forget.
it's a good question, but I think some of that would leak, especially for like political, like someone nefarious would have leaked that,
Yeah. That would have been a more interesting route to take that, right? The whole subplot of him being a governor, like, a senator? Sorry,
Senator,
senator.
Senator, yeah.
Is kinda just, it felt like something they threw in Brave New World, and then we're like, we don't actually wanna do that. We want them in the Thunderbolts." And I'm
Well,
like,
that's also something worth
uh
noting with the second post-credit scene because there is a mention of Sam creating his version of the Avengers.
yeah, so let's get through it. So that credit sequence happens where they are the new Avengers. People are skeptical of them. Some people like them, some don't. And then you get a callback. The first post credit sequence, the mid credit sequence, is in a grocery store where you have Red Guardian, or Alexi. He's not in his Red Guardian. He's just a civilian at this point in the grocery store
Just
looking
Alexi,
at
Dad.
he's in the grocery store looking at the Wheaties box, and they're all on the Wheaties box as the new Avengers, which plays into some of the marketing we've seen,
Well,
which
even the
is
Starship song, right?
yeah, and plays into the beginning of throughout the movie where Alexi mentions that they could be the heroes on the Wheatie box, and he's very proud of that moment. There's a funny moment between him and a woman in the store. So just that I like that they swapped it in putting the goofy post-credit sequence is the mid-credits, and then the quote unquote important one at the end. It again, going back to some things that I said of just people who nerd out about these movies in this silly interconnected universe, of going back to that final post-credits after all of the credits, sitting through everything, getting a substantial scene, not just a 2-second, little thing, but like a good couple minutes, where it flashes forward 14 months, correct, Eric?
Yeah.
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 So a year and 2 months, where now the new Avengers are settled in Avengers Tower. So they're back at the original Avengers Tower, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And then they all are working as this universe's Avengers team, where they're wearing kind of, it looks similar to the Avengers outfits they had in Endgame, during like where they all kind of have branded Avengers outfits that
Alexei
have,
looks like Ricky Bobby.
yeah, they have an interesting new Avengers logo, and then they're kind
It's
of
spelled
talking.
NU, which I thought was strange, like new
Was it?
metal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
Okay. I
kidding.
was like, no, it isn't.
It'd be
Um,
amazing.
and then there's a moment where they're all talking about how you mentioned it, where uh people aren't happy that they're there. Sam especially isn't happy with this new Avengers team,
He's
that
not even
he's,
really talking to Bucky now, and
yeah, and he's putting together his own Avengers.
but Bucky's like, "Did you see your movie, guy?"
Yeah. And I forget the exact details of what happens, but they're all in Avengers Tower, just kind of all talking to each other, right?
Yeah, and it
And
also
they,
shows that Bob is still there and like he's still a part of the team,
but
but
he's
he's
not like, is he part of the team, or is he
I
just
think
like
he is, but
holding up?
they're also he's trying to keep mellow and meditate
Yeah.
and sort of, keep the darkness from coming back. But obviously, like what they're setting up here is that character is going to be important to the next two Avengers films too, right? Because I feel like the way that they talk about him in the movie as being all the Avengers put into one, and even a god, referencing Thor, that strength is something that they're going to try to maybe unlock. See, that's going to be interesting too, because they know like how serious an effect that's going to have on Bob as a person,
Yeah.
but then the threat maybe being so severe that it's like, oh, well, we have to push this person
Yeah.
to get to this place.
And I'm sure
But then
Robert Downey Jr.'s
ethically, we're gonna
Victor Von Doom will manipulate that. Yeah.
yeah.
And then,
Well, hopefully. I mean, when I say hopefully, I hope it's him, and I hope it's not his own team trying to bring that back in order to save
interesting.
the day,
Yeah.
because that would cause some ethical concerns
Yeah.
there.
I think that's fair. And then they talk about how, oh, there's like this thing happening in space, and
Yeah.
in outer space right now, where there's like an anomaly, or they want us to look into this thing that's happening in outer space. I think they mentioned, I forget what other details that they mentioned before that leading up to it, but do you remember? Or
No, it was
the
more so
midpoint?
banter and just
Yeah.
kind of like giving you
Just
like
setting up that they're established now, they're in Avengers Tower, they are a team. They are the current Avengers in this
because
universe.
there are no Avengers right now. Like
Yeah,
that's the whole thing about Val's character during these hearings, and the conversation about like what she's doing is ethically questionable and worth investigating, is that in this current state, Earth doesn't have a team and
yeah,
doesn't
so
have
they
that
are the team.
security. Yeah.
And then with Sam putting together his Avengers, which will be some of the other chairs we saw on that live screen, or live stream. So then you get a moment where Yelena picks up a data pad, iPad kind of thing, and looks into what's happening in outer space, which then they realize a ship is making interdimensional travel. So not from this dimension, so breaking into their universe from another dimension. And then I mean, people who are in the know would probably know what's coming next, but
Well,
then it kind of,
especially if you're watching the end credits and you see the
yeah,
music
from the
credits.
Fantastic Four from Michael Giacchino. Yeah. So then it zooms in on this ship, and you see that it's the Fantastic Four ship entering our MCU. Um, and then that's kind of where it cuts. So some interesting stuff there. I love just the jump forward again of I'm wondering when they're gonna get back to. I'm assuming Sam's Avengers team will be some of the people we saw in the post credits of Shang-Chi, right? Like, because there
Well,
was
Mark
that.
Ruffalo wasn't one of the names that was in that lineup.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? But I think they will reveal more people to be in that movie.
Yeah, or there will be more people in the second
Yeah,
half, right? Like Hugh
because
Jackman's probably going to be somewhere in there.
you
So
assume and I know things have changed since they shot Shang-Chi, especially with the Kang stuff moving over to Doom. But I think you take that Shang-Chi post credits and you have to kind of tie that in because weren't they saying that they were getting like a beacon from way far away in the universe or
yeah,
something
because it
like
was the
that? And like,
rings, right? Like
yeah,
yeah.
the 10 rings or something like that play a part. So it'll be interesting how they connect that stuff. I think the other interesting thing here of why that ship's here and who is on the ship, I think is interesting
It's
because,
Galactus.
um,
It's just like he's looking this way.
yeah, I'm curious of, does that sort of spoil the end of Fantastic
I think it
Four
does. I
of
think
like,
Fantastic Four will be a prequel to the end of Thunderbolts,
I
right? Like I
agree.
think
Yeah.
like what's going to happen, and this is all
We'll
just
see
speculation.
the other side of that scene at the
Yes.
end of that movie, right?
Yeah.
And the only question is it the entirety of the Fantastic Four? Does, Reed get sent somewhere else and Sue and Franklin, well, she's pregnant with Franklin. I don't know if it's probably going to be like a Star Trek thing where she like
Will
gives
they be
birth to
bringing
Franklin
their
as their,
Taskmaster into this world?
yeah, God damn it. Um, so I think there's some fun stuff there of we all kind of expected, like, because of, you know, we knew that was a separate universe and we knew that they eventually had to make their way over here. But what leads to those events, I think, are the most interesting things. So you
All I can
assume,
tell you is that I am very excited for one thing in Fantastic Four and one thing alone: Galactus.
yeah, I'm excited for Galactic too. Ralph Ineson's going to be great.
Oh god, that voice.
I thought you were going to make a thing joke because you said one thing and one thing only.
Oh
The
no,
thing,
no, no,
the
no.
thing.
That's I was leading you off.
Uh,
Here's the
and then,
thing.
yeah. So Ralph Ineson's amazing. I do think that movie ends with Galactus or something destroying their universe,
Yeah.
right? Like, or maybe they defeat Galactus and Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom causes an incursion or something, or
It's basically
um
abandoning ship, but the ship they're
yes,
abandoning is their
is there
version
an
of Earth or
in
their
yes,
their
exactly. So I
multiverse.
feel like that universe will be a kind of one and done thing, right? Where their universe gets destroyed.
Yeah.
I assume I think Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom has to be involved there, right? And then at the end, probably being someone who's sending Galactus or whatever, or the Silver Surfer, I and then I do think that you probably get a split of the Fantastic Four where either like Reed and,
Or you thinking like the
John.
Marvels kind of
Yeah.
situation where
I think some of them will
Tiana
go over
Paris
there
gets
where
separated
to
from
the X-Men universe,
yeah.
right? So I think you get maybe one or two of the Fantastic Four in that X-Men universe, and you get one or two of them over in the Marvel universe, and then there's going to be an incursion between probably those two universes, and whether you have to jump back and forth or they're just colliding or something like that. I think these are just guesses, but educated guesses. But I'm excited to see where it goes. Like, it felt like, for me as a fan, a lot of these post-credit sequences are like, oh, okay, or they're just baffling, right? Like, some of them are just baffling.
Or they're
Like
just bad. I think like some
yeah,
of them truly are like going back. We keep picking on Brave New World, but
that
Tim
one is
Blake
terrible.
Nelson being like, you're not ready for what's coming. It's just like it's so vague. It's
Vague and just we know. Like,
yeah.
we got it, bro. Like, we know, right? It's, you're not telling us any new information. So, and then certain other ones that have told you new information or have introduced new characters never led anywhere, or the payoff is so far down the line, or they thought
Eternals.
maybe, yeah, like maybe we're going to use this character, maybe not. And
Yeah.
for the most
Blade.
part, Blade, Hercules, Star Fox, um, maybe that all comes back at some point, but there were a lot of ones where you're like, oh, okay. And then like nothing. Even the Shang-Chi one, it's been so long
Yeah.
since Shang-Chi, and that felt like something that needed to pay off 5 years ago,
Yeah.
not like,
Well, even
not
after like
now.
right? Like you think obviously they had to change things to wrap it up, but like that was so connected to all the Kang stuff too, right? Like you think like okay, that there'd be
Which
some
one?
connection
Sorry.
Loki with
Yes.
Shang-Chi, right? Because it was all Kang based, and even like the end of Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania,
Quantumania, yeah.
like there's a feeling of like, oh, have I really solved this? You know?
Well, and even in that post credits wasn't great either because I feel like that movie didn't do a great job at that scene is terrible, right? And it did nothing for me to be like, yeah, I'm really excited for Kang and like, and mind you, the real world stuff messed up the Kang stuff, but it's like, okay, well, we got away from that. We don't need to touch that anymore. And whether they go back
They
to
won't.
it,
I don't think they will.
you don't think they do anything with Doom of
I
like
think I
killing
think
Kang or
Loki I
like,
think Loki wrapped all of that up.
yeah, I think so too. I'm kind of with you that I don't think you necessarily need a moment of you could have
A
Doctor
moment of
Doom.
silence for Kang.
No, I just mean Doctor Doom going in and like killing the Council of
Un
Kangs, right? Like or
Unless
something
they
like that. Like,
recast Kang, but then it's like if you
yeah.
can't recast Kang and then you bring in like a really great actor for that role, it feels like a waste if you're just gonna kill him off to make like a
No,
point
if
with
they
Doom.
recast, they probably have Kang as an actual character in the
Yeah.
movie, but like which could happen, but
Because it was supposed
um
to be Avengers Kang Dynasty, right? Like that was
yeah.
the original title. So they've changed. They've shifted gears and they're on a different path now. They're on a different timeline. So
And I just appreciate that this is leading into the next film. We're getting immediate payoff from it. And yeah, they do have
they need it
some
too. They
yeah,
need this payoff.
they need that payoff to be quick and they need Fantastic Four. You made a point in our spoiler-free review of that there's a lot riding for DC and Marvel on their two tentpole
This
movies this
July.
summer, right?
Yeah.
Because Superman is launching. I mean, not no one, but Creature Commandos wasn't necessarily like
That was a
like
soft
yeah, soft
launch.
launch.
Yeah.
Where they're hard launching with Superman, and then Fantastic Four First Steps is a big deal because it's
I thought you were gonna
almost
say a
like
big thing.
yeah, it's the thing. It needs to hit right because it is this
It's
kind
rock
of
hard, the thing.
it's a rock hard launch. You have a hard launch in Superman and then a rock hard launch in Fantastic Four, and both things have so much riding on that hard launch that
The rock hard
uh,
launch.
you got to ride that rock hard launch, man, because like so much is riding on it. Because if those movies don't pay off, they lead into these giant plans, right, with
Yeah.
a whole new DCU and two gigantic Avengers movies where you don't have any Marvel movies other than a Spider-Man movie in between right now,
You need
right?
that buildup of anticipation to get
Yeah.
people across the finish line. I think I think there's maybe more pressure on the DCU because it feels like there's more riding on it, just in the sense of this is the beginning of the new, not just a
Like
launch, but like this is just
20 movies you've already have planned, right? Or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
and where like Marvel is still Marvel, right? They've had their ebbs and flows, the peaks and valleys of it all, and they're in the valley, but they're not rebooting anything as of yet in terms of like the franchise itself. So for that, I think like there's still an amount of pressure here, but I would say the DCU, like if Superman doesn't do well, where does that leave, James Gunn and Peter Safran's whole, potential projects and like what are they going to do? Where like Marvel, I think can still bounce back. Like they're cutting down now on the TV shows. Like Ironheart's still coming.
Well, just the amount of stuff they're doing in general. Like
Yeah,
if you look, we don't have that much like announced for the future, right?
no, but we do have a lot this year. Like we've already had 2 movies. We're getting a third one.
And we're
So
getting a couple series.
yeah,
Yeah.
where last year we only had Deadpool and Wolverine as a film, right? So right,
Yeah.
am I right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So like it's not we are not as um inundated as we once were a few years ago, where the saturation in the market was just so overwhelmed by it. But we will have 3 films before the end of July. That's still a lot, you know?
Yeah, and then we'll have almost a year off before
Yeah.
Doomsday, and I think Doomsday maybe even gets punted. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I know it has a lot riding on it because Spider-Man Brand New Day might take place kind of either during the events or right after, or it could be right before. If it takes place before, then you could punt Doomsday a little bit further because right now it's just Doomsday May 1st, 2026 and Secret Wars May 7th, 2027.
Yeah. And that's
And
probably why Spider-Man's not gonna be in Doomsday, but will probably be a part of
Secret
Secret
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah, and if he is in Doomsday, the rumor is that it'll kind of do the Mandalorian thing where he's probably masked for most of it, and then Tom Holland will just do kind of like a
Oh, I
voice
thought you were gonna
work.
say Pedro Pascal will do the voice because
Yeah.
he's in it too.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's I like that we're getting the payoff right away. I think Fantastic Four, because it seems like they have such a, a specific vision, and it seems like they're committed to that. No pun intended. I know you made that joke already with Matt Shackman and WandaVision, but
Oh, yeah.
I really do it. Everything I've seen, I'm the most excited for a Marvel movie I've been probably since who probably Wakanda Forever I was pretty excited for, but then that one
You were excited
because
for
of
Deadpool and Wolverine, come on.
I was, but
No
not
way.
on that same level though, dude. Like I was excited, but not like, you know, can't wait to see it excited. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Well,
Like
and Brave New
I
World.
think yeah, that one I just couldn't. Like I think Multiverse of Madness was more disappointing because the
Yeah.
potential there and the marketing was so great and like we really thought that
Well, and Sam
was
Raimi
going to
coming
be
back, right?
yeah.
So
Before that, I guess it would be No Way Home, right? Because of
that I think was like the last like truly
like,
event.
event huge, like and Doctor Strange, I mean, look at the opening weekend box office. That back-to-back hit of Spider-Man No Way Home, multiverse stuff in that movie leading into Multiverse of Madness with
It really helped.
the Illuminati tease, all that kind of stuff. Like that movie, people were fucking stoked for. I remember that. And it was one of those things of being like, it was a little bit of a disappointment. I'm excited to go back and rewatch it because I think,
Well, even WandaVision, right? Like
yeah,
it connected partly to WandaVision too. So it's like you have all that investment in time and spending hours, making sure you're up to date with the continuity and the storytelling, and then you get to Multiverse of Madness, and you're just like, oh,
it was
okay.
Multiverse of Madness and Quantum Mania were the two where I think there was a lot of hype around them.
Well, even
And then
Eternals because of
and
Chloe
both
Zhao.
yeah, but I don't even think that I think that was more for us, like, film dork
Yes, but
people.
that's what I mean for
Um,
me. Like I was really
yeah.
excited about that post Nomadland and like seeing like a filmmaker come in and try to like not even shake things up, but just not even Shackman things up, but to kind of just like move things out of the comfort
Yeah.
zone of Marvel a little bit more, and that disappointed. And so there's just been like you look at Phase 5 and some of Phase 4, and after Endgame, it has been a little bit directionless when it comes to like
Yeah.
that building where it felt like okay, the Thanos thing, we're getting there, it's meaning something, and then the first time around when you have all of these moving parts being put together on screen and them actually achieving it was the exciting thing for the first Avengers movie, and that cannot really be replicated again because it can only really be done once in terms of the excitement level, because you'll still get the sequels, but you're not going to get like, and I think that's probably why Age of Ultron didn't do as well, because it just
'Cause it
felt
was
like,
just
oh, this is
more of the
sequel.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And then Infinity War and Endgame, because it was unlike anything with all these 10 years of storytelling, all these multi-connected characters and stories and, the through line of Thanos and the Infinity Stones, it was just, I think, a perfect storm, right? Of like, oh, all these characters. It was the amount of characters as well, and how well they handled the villain story with Thanos and where I think they're sort of trying to replicate that here. And I think they'll ultimately win people over with the cheap multiverse cameos. I do think like
Yes.
that will be its thing,
When
right? And
Taskmaster shows up, it'll be
yeah,
huge.
because you mentioned why the first Avenger movie worked, not the Captain America one, but the original Avengers movie. Why Ultron kind of didn't work, and then why Infinity War and Endgame worked. Where now this, it doesn't feel like we're like rushing into it, because an Avengers movie, I'd be fine getting each phase or each 2 phases, right? Like, I do think that we probably should have gotten a mid Avengers movie before this big Avengers movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a
And
regular
I think
Avengers
the Robert
movie.
Downey Jr. thing is both, that is going to be fascinating as well,
Yeah.
because there is some
That is the main thing of what makes these things interesting to me.
right.
Just of like, it could go either way. It could
Yes.
go horribly wrong, or it could be the best part of those movies, right?
Yeah. And that's also, it's already creating division, right? Like some people are still
Yeah.
very much like, oh, I don't know about
Wait till you
this. And
see it. But like,
sure, sure.
yeah,
I'm a little bit critical of Robert Downey Jr. saying like, oh, I'm done with this stuff after winning an Oscar for an Oppenheimer, and then
yeah,
being like, well, the truck of money they sent me was, I couldn't refuse that. So,
yeah. I don't know. It
yeah.
was a big part of that guy's career and his comeback. Like, I
Sure, I don't
understand.
mind it, and you've talked about this too in the comic books being similar, where you can take a physical identity of somebody and play with that. But it's just unfortunate that with comic books, you're not necessarily tied to an actor, so like that
Yeah.
does play a factor in things as well in terms of, um, the longevity. Like, there's going to be a point where Robert Downey Jr. maybe can't do this as much as he
That's
wants
why
to do.
get as much as you can out of him
Yeah,
before you can't. But like, what I love the Robert Downey Jr. thing, as much as you might think it's just pandering or just like nostalgia, kind of, you need to go back to the well because you didn't know what you were doing. I think if you can tell it in an interesting way of bringing back your biggest hero, your hero that made the biggest sacrifice of this universe, that, if you're going to do that, you have to make sure it's worth it, right? Like, and you have to play into that moment and make sure that whatever you're doing to bring this character back, to bring this person back, is worth it. And for people like, I know people have their opinion of, it's like, is he playing a Tony Stark variant that goes bad, or is he just playing Victor Von Doom? And I'm like, if he's just back and playing Victor Von Doom and it has nothing to do with Tony Stark, I think that is a massive fumble and it
yes.
doesn't make any sense at all. And I think that's why on his fucking chair it says Victor Von Doom, and they're saying he's playing Victor Von Doom. And I'm like, they're going to play it off as a big reveal that he's, actually a Tony Stark variant. And I don't mean as a big reveal late in the movie. It's going to be very early in the movie, but I think in most of the lead up, they're going to say
Because you can
he's,
cast another actor to play Victor Von Doom at some other point that actually, like, this is the thing where it sucks that Mads Mikkelsen was
yeah,
in that
he
first
would have
Doctor
been
Strange.
perfect.
He would have
Yeah.
been amazing in that role. And
And
I
I know
know
people
he's
like Cillian Murphy. Is that possible too? And I think that'd be funny because of the Oppenheimer thing. But and I was talking with Justin about some of this stuff off air after we recorded our review on Geek Centric. I think he has to play an Iron Man variant because it would be so silly to not do that. And you have to have those character interactions, and you have to have your biggest hero be your biggest villain. And I
but it
think,
also will be interesting with Spider-Man though as well, because I feel like that will have the biggest impact on Peter.
yeah.
But Peter might not be in Doomsday, so that also
But
feels
then
like a missed opportunity there, unless he
But if
is in
he's
it
busy
still.
in Brand New Day and can't help out with Doomsday because maybe he's trying to do more of the street level stuff and he's letting the Avengers handle the Avengers stuff,
Yeah.
that moment, that payoff in Secret Wars when they finally maybe see each other and he just thinks that it's this whoever this Doctor Doom guy is or whatever, doing whatever it is to Earth,
Tony.
or I think that moment will hit, and I think will be great. And on Battle World or whatever they end up doing, and I'm really excited for these next couple movies. It could completely bomb, and I think if the Doomsday and Secret Wars doesn't work,
That is the
we might
pressure
be
point.
over. We
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
over. Like, we might be done, like, at least for a little while, and a
We're so
complete,
done.
or but then the mutant saga might, bring people back. They might just not focus on any Avengers stuff for a while and just focus on mutants, right?
Yeah.
But like, which I'm sure they'll do anyway to kind of take a break from the rest of it. But um it'll be fascinating. And I think setting up the Thunderbolts as the Avengers team, I think will lead to some fun interactions and some
Or they could
fun.
wipe out the Thunderbolts or the new Avengers in these two
Yeah.
Avenger movies, and then whatever's left will be the new Avengers.
The new Avengers.
Yeah.
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 All right. I think we'll anything else before we wrap, Eric?
No, yeah, to your
We
point,
covered
I
it. Yeah.
think like the mid-credit scene being kind of the more disposable one is the right call, because people want to make that sit through the credits, even though it's nice to respect the
I
people
agree.
that
Yeah.
worked on this and give everybody their due. It's like, okay, well, it justifies the means for staying the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for Fantastic Four. And to talk about, both of those movies of Superman, I have this feeling that both are going to hit and do well, at least financially.
And they're coming out so
Um,
close to each other too. Like that's the
that's
other
kind of
thing,
wild too. Yeah.
unless one of them backs down, but I don't think they will.
It doesn't seem like it at this point, right? Because you have July 11th for Superman and July 25th for Fantastic Four,
Oof.
which is wild.
Yeah.
So, we shall see. All right. Thank you, everyone. Please go check out all of our other work over on Untitled Movie Podcast and on The Cast of Us. We have a recap of season 2, episode 3 out right now, as well as every episode before that. If you are watching HBO's The Last of Us, where Eric and I kind of break down each episode, review it, give you a recap, those kind of things. Eric has an interview up with Steve Newburn for Until Dawn, which you guys can check out. We have a review up for Until Dawn and The Legend of Ochi, as well as some other things. Andor season 2, Eric's got an interview for that as well. So lots of stuff over on Untitled Movie Podcast. If you want a one-stop shop for everything, head over to Untitled_cast on Letterboxd, as well as follow us on all those social medias at Matt Rohrbeck and at EM6211. Until next time,
Taskmaster will not return.
that would have been a great thing at the end of this.
I would have given it 5 stars just based on that.
Goodbye, everybody.